Number 2, though, is where I think it gets interesting because you can argue the same thing for the Browns. They've got this Deshaun Watson contract. It's basically becoming pretty clear, and I think this was true before he tore his Achilles again, that Watson has played his last down at Cleveland Brown. Whether or not they're stuck with his contract or him on the roster is another matter, but I don't think he's playing for them anymore. So the only way out of that is to find a new quarterback who doesn't cost a lot of money because Watson's contract is taken up so much. Number 2 overall is the perfect way of achieving that. I would probably take Shedeur Sanders. Whether or not, you think he's an elite prospect, he's a way out. Like, he's a potential way out of this thing. And I think there's enough good there that I would be comfortable taking him at the top of this draft. It's starting to sound, though, like that's not what's going to happen, that these teams at the top of the draft who do need a quarterback still, Cleveland, New York Giants, they might pass on him and suddenly start this sort of chaotic slide of where does Shedeur Sanders actually end up going? How far down the first round does he slide? Is it possible he slides out of the first round entirely if he was only there, artificially because teams needed a quarterback? So I think suddenly this number 2 overall pick ends up being a non-quarterback position. And at that point, I think it's basically, do you like the kind of the perimeter position ability of Travis Hunter, a wide receiver cornerback, or do you like the best pass rusher in the draft, Abdul Carter?
All right, there's a lot to unpack here because I'm seeing rumblings. I'm seeing people, and maybe it's the people. The people are saying, hey, if the Browns take someone else at 2, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, keep an eye. Doesn't mean Shedeur Sanders is off the table. Same thing with the Giants, right? Some of the dinners that the teams went out with featured both players. Dion was kind of hinting at, hey, one of them's going to end up in Cleveland, right? Where I think I had been thinking that's Abdul Carter in Cleveland if it's a non-quarterback. But I think it is more on the table that it is potentially Travis Hunter. But then the story becomes, will the team that either took Hunter or just passed on Shedeur, it doesn't have to be the Hunter team, will the Giants or the Browns go get Shedeur in the first round somewhere? And I saw somewhere else, secondhand, the betting market is leaning toward Shedeur going to the Saints. Yeah. Now let's remember here, before we run with these things, draft night 2023, the betting markets up until about 7:00, Will Levis, number 2 overall. The thing was hot, right? Will Levis is the favorite to go number 2 overall. Somebody tried to claim that was fake. I don't believe that was fake that night.
No, the morning of the draft.
It swung. Morning of the draft, it swung. And then right before the draft, it swung to C.J. Stroud. But the day of the draft, the Will Levis hype was through the roof.
Yeah, no, 100% guaranteed the morning of the draft, at least for a period of time, Will Levis was the betting favorite to be the number 2 overall pick of that draft.
So there's crazy stuff that happens. But I'm watching you know how I do it, Sam, the 1999 draft, watching it, live tweeting it last night, and some of the drama there and the trade up for Ricky Williams. And I'm yearning for that on draft night. I want that to happen. So I'm kind of rooting for Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, some combination of them at 2 and 3, and then the Shedeur watch and some sort of aggressive move to go get him. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, the same. So the 2023 draft again, the CJ Stroud draft. Obviously, the other thing that is relevant from that draft comparing to this is the Texans grabbed CJ Stroud, and then they tried to have their cake and eat it, and I guess successfully did. They came back for Will Anderson, right? He was presumably kind of alternative approach if you didn't get a quarterback in that draft. They decided they wanted both. They make the selection for Stroud, and then they give the giant trade to come back up and grab Will Anderson. A couple of ways. So you can look at that and say, well, why can't the Browns or the Giants or whoever get Shedeur in addition to, Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, like the blue chip defender that they want as well? A couple of differences to that. Now, they could. I mean, this is on the table. This is why it becomes interesting. A couple of slight differences, though. Number one, the Texans had a pick lower in that first round, right? They didn't need to come from the second round all the way up. They already had.
They were picking at 12. Yeah, they had pick 2 and pick 12. So going into the draft, a lot of people were saying you take Stroud at 2, Jackson Smith and Jigba at 12, right? We're trying to figure out what do the Texans do with their 2 picks. Instead, they traded up to get Will Anderson. Yes.
So in terms of executing the trade back up for the defender, they were much better positioned to do that than either the Browns or the Giants will be, who will be coming from the top of the second round, jumping potentially a lot further in order to make that happen. That's a harder trade to swing. The second thing, though, so that works against the team this year. The thing that works for them, though, is that if you grab the defender first, you do it the other way around from the Texans. The Texans were like, if we don't get Stroud here too, he's gone. We don't get him. We have to take him first and then come back for the defender. The calculation this time around is we don't think Shedeur Sanders is worth this pick, and we don't think another team is going to take him for a while. Let's put the Saints out there as the team that might do it, right? We don't think he's going to go until number 9. So we actually don't need to get from the second round all the way up to 3. We need to get from the second round to 8 or to 9 if the Saints will move out of that draft pick. So that works for them in that they don't necessarily have to move as far because they think Sanders might actually slide a bit if they don't pick him with that number 2 or number 3 overall pick. So I think this is the kind of calculus that's going on if they like him, right? Now, if they don't like him at all, it's obviously off the table. They're just picking the defender and moving on. But if either one of those, the Browns or the Giants, like Sanders, but also think most of the rest of the league doesn't, this is the kind of calculus that's going on. Could we get both? Could we make it happen so that we grab our blue chip defender with the top pick and then get the quarterback later on?
Hey guys, just taking a quick break to tell you, hey, just over 50% of you are still unsubscribed to Check the Mic. It helps the channel. It helps to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. So if you have a chance, hit the subscribe button right now. I think that's well laid out, Sam. The other calculation that's being made there is the difference between Shedeur Sanders and the next group of quarterbacks. So assuming the Giants and Browns they both want to come up with a quarterback. And I don't even know if this is as much it's kind of a combination, a knock on Shedeur and, hey, we want this blue chip player, right? So when you pass on the QB at 2, you're saying, well, if he's not worth it at 2, how could he be worth it later? I think it's more so, hey, we can add Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter to our team. We should do that first and then play the game. If we think Shedeur's worth, they might say, hey, Shedeur's worth going up to 20. But if he's gone before 20, we're not going to do that. We'll go Jackson Dart. We'll go, insert your favorite developmental quarterback here. So I think that's part of the discussion as well, which is how close is Shedeur Sanders to the next chunk of quarterbacks? And let's make sure that we get our blue chip player in first, so that and then we'll figure out the quarterbacks after. So it does seem like that is more realistic. So I am curious to know where you're going to go as a guy that is on record saying you would take Shedeur Sanders number 2 with the Browns. Are we trying to be a little predictive here? Have you reconsidered? Do you want to try to play that game?
Yeah, very briefly. It's that thing we touched on before. That blue chip conversation changes everything, right? That's the thing. It's not so much, it is a referendum on the quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, but it's also first and foremost, we could get a game-changing, difference-making player, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. Like, we could get a blue chip player and then figure out quarterback after that. Then we have the debate how much is. So we've essentially said the more important thing, based off what we believe about Shedeur Sanders, the better and more important thing is to get the blue chip defender in the door. Once we've made that decision, then we have almost a whole separate decision about, well, how good is Sanders? Is he worth trading from here to here? Is he worth doing something else crazy? Is he this much better than the next tier of quarterbacks? But it's that blue chip defensive kind of decision that's first and foremost. Like, can we pass? They almost look at it in reverse, right? Instead of can we pass on a quarterback to grab something else, it's like, can we pass on one of these blue chip players, of which there are, 3 or 4 in this draft, to go and do something else. So I think that's where the Browns are leaning. I think it's a defendable decision. It's not one I would make. If they're doing that, I would grab Travis Hunter. We just to tease something that we have coming down the pipe. We're working on a video where we've basically asked every, draft content creator we can think of, who is your favorite prospect for however you want to do it, any round, any position, for any reason. who is your favorite prospect in this draft? We've got a bunch of videos back so far. We're going to stitch them all together and basically just create one long kind of montage of everybody's favorite draft prospects. Without spoiling it, more than one reply so far has been Travis Hunter, just because he is this unique, two-way potential player who could be the best corner in the draft, could be the best receiver in the draft, could be the best at both at the same time. Genuine, unique prospect. I do feel that the longer this goes, like, teams are going to get drawn to that. Whether or not they plan on using him as a two-way player, he is special, is the point. And I think the Browns will end up taking him at 2.
Yeah. Personally, I came to this conclusion a couple weeks ago. I would take Hunter over Abdul Carter. I want to play that game. I want the 1.5 players. And not because it's necessarily relevant, but it was fun. Back in the 99 draft that I was watching last night, they were debated. Champ Bailey had played about 300 snaps on offense that year. Yeah. And so they went to the panel and they were debating, can he do this at the next level? Is he just a corner? It wasn't as strong as Travis Hunter because most people thought he was a corner, but they were having that debate. Is he too tired? Did it affect his? It was a lot of the same discussion we're having now about Travis Hunter.
Champ Bailey gets kind of forgotten about in that discussion, but he's arguably been the closest to what Travis Hunter's done in terms of like how much he did it. Like guys like Chris Gamble, did that. Like quite a lot of players have done that. They'll have a package on Charles Woodson, like guys that have played on offense. Champ Bailey maybe did it more than anybody else before Travis Hunter. Like he actually, as he said, 300 odd snaps. He played quite a bit on offense. And yet was almost immediately like, you're just a corner. Forget all that. Nobody's been anywhere near Travis Hunter in terms of, how much they've played on the other side of the ball, but quite a few guys have at least done bits of it.
All right, man, I haven't seen this combination, but I think he's sitting here on April 7th. We're hearing more and more about non-quarterback for the Browns, and I think more Travis Hunter to the Browns at 2.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.